Hi, this is Eliza Broadbent coming to you from the horror realm with the Paranormal Experience. I'm here with my co-host Travis Bruce and Pedro Iniguez, who is coming here to tell us his paranormal stories and also talk about his new book coming out, Fever Dreams of a Parasite. And congratulations are in order right now because he just made the preliminary ballot for the Stoker Awards with Mexicans on the Moon collection of speculative poetry, right?
Yes.
Congrats.
Came out September last year, so yes.
And is that Raw Dog Screaming Press?
That is Space Cowboy Books.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But they also have a poetry collection on the preliminary as well, from Brenda Tolian, who's a great poet as well. So.
Very awesome. Well, congratulations. We're super excited to see your name on that ballot. Hopefully we're going to see it on the final.
Fingers crossed. We'll see. I mean, even if we don't, it's a nice honor being recognized on this as well. So I'm happy either way.
No, it's an amazing honor. Like, super proud of you. So
thank you.
Tell us, you say you got several paranormal stories. So hit us with them. What's going on?
I've got a lot, so I probably don't have time for them because ever since I was a kid, I've had a lot of experiences. And I want to start by saying I'm an atheist. So for me, it's kind of a weird thing that's happened all my life because I shouldn't be believing these things, but I've seen them and I don't know how to explain them. But my first story, I was about maybe 7 years old. I had two working parents, and after school they couldn't pick me up because they were working. But they hired a friend of mine who was a year older. His name is Jose. They hired his mom, who lived literally a street over from ours, to watch over us until they got off work and they could pick us up. And they lived on a cul-de-sac. They lived at the end of the street. They were literally the last house. And we'd go there after school and play and stuff like that, and they take care of us. And there were me and my sister, and then Jose and his sister, and we'd play hide and go seek all the time. And at the front of the street was a mortuary. And at the time, I didn't know what a mortuary was. I was a kid. I didn't know what it meant, what was in there, what was going on in there. So that's how it plugs in. So later on, I found out what a mortuary was. But when this happened, I didn't know. So I grew up in Eagle Rock, California, which is a small community in northeast Los Angeles. And it used to be a farming community like in the 1920s. I should say 1920s now. But so here's how it comes into play. We were playing hide and go seek, and Jose said the rules are you can hide anywhere in the backyard or in the house, but you can't go in the front because that would be cheating because you can just go anywhere. I cheated and I ran in front of the house and I ran up the street, and I saw a tall white man crossing the street. The only thing was he was in overalls, or is it coveralls? Coveralls. One of the farmers wear, and he was translucent. He had like a blue-white glow about him. I could see right through him, and he was crossing the street as if I didn't exist. And he looked like a farmer. And it scared the hell out of me. And all the hairs on my neck stood up, and I ran back in and I gave myself up. And I went on to find out later that building in front of the street was a mortuary, and I found out later that Eagle Rock was a farming community. So I put two and two together, and I'm thinking that's all. He must have been a farmer from long ago. He looked like he was living back in his day, like he was a man out of time. So that was my first experience with seeing a ghost. I've had many others. I've seen like the Grim Reaper walk through my walls, but the thing was,
What?
Yeah. So this is also when I was a kid. This happened on 3 separate occasions throughout maybe the span of 2 years. I was maybe 8 or 9. The only thing was the Grim Reaper, as you know him now with the cloak and all that, but he was white. He was in white. He wasn't in black robes or anything like that. And that happened on 3 occasions. He kind of floated through my bedroom at night, and he kind of phased through the wall, which leads into the backyard. So that was another experience I've had. I've also had
Pedro.
Experience. Yeah.
So Pedro, hold on. So when the Grim
I've got so many
through the walls.
Yeah, we need to pause on this story.
Yeah. Ask me.
So what was your reaction when you seen the Grim Reaper come through the wall?
Surprisingly, I wasn't scared. A lot of times, actually, when I've had these experiences, I for the most part, I wasn't scared. The first ghost I saw, I was scared because it was my first time seeing a ghost. the Grim Reaper, I didn't feel fear. I wasn't scared. I was just kind of very matter of fact that, well, that just happened. But I don't know. I didn't feel fear. I wasn't scared. So yeah.
was this like a prescient thing? Like, did anything happen afterwards? Was there any kind of just oh wow.
Yeah. I did have some other things that happened that are a little more intense. There was one other occasion where I was scared. So I did a panel at StokerCon last year where I talked about my true experiences, and this is the one I saved for that. This is probably my scariest, because a lot of them are creepy, but I wasn't as startled. This one was a really bad one. So this one I would say was like a demon attack. This was in about 2007, 2009, somewhere in that time. I couldn't sleep, so I went to the couch. I was watching TV, trying to fall asleep, and all of a sudden, I felt a hand. I'm lying down, so where my head's at, something from behind slammed my left pectoral muscle, and I tried to get up and scream, and I couldn't. Just like in the movies, and so I feel this hand, which is invisible. I feel this hand. It's a hand. I can feel all of the digits and everything, and I feel it pressing me down. It's holding me down. And I tried to get up, and I couldn't. It was really strong. And I tried to scream, and I couldn't. And then I didn't know what to do. Now, I grew up Catholic. My parents took me to church. My mom specifically. My dad isn't really religious, but my mom, she would take me to, Sunday school and all that stuff. So I didn't know what to do. So I just reverted. So the only thing I could think of at the time was I said the Lord's Prayer. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, all that. I memorized it, but I didn't just say it. I kind of believed the words when I was saying it. And all of a sudden, I hear hissing behind me, like a monster, like, and I felt,
oh no,
yeah, and I felt,
oh no,
I felt the pressure of the hand lifting off me, and I can't explain it any other way except I felt like there was this invisible force field around me then, and I felt like everything was okay. I was safe, and nothing could ever harm me, and I felt no fear. It all went away, and that's the only way I could describe what happened. But I knew when I was saying those words that I believed them at the moment, and then it went away. Now, after that, I was kind of really shocked, and I'm like, this couldn't have really happened. This must have been some sleep paralysis thing going on or something like that. I must have been drifting off, and something like that happened, because you feel the pressure on your chest. Well, the next morning I woke up, I went to go take a shower, and I took off my shirt. There's a big red handprint on my chest. And the thing is, my family and me, we're not like the tallest people. I'm like the tallest in my family, but this was like a big, like basketball player hand, like sized handprint on my chest. Something bigger than anybody in my family's hand could ever be. It was huge. It covered the entirety of my chest, and it was red. Left a red handprint. Like when you smack someone or you get slapped really hard, it stayed on there, and that's how I knew, like, no, this was real. And so that was probably the scariest thing I've ever experienced in regards to paranormal stuff. Now I've seen UFOs. I've had like I've also been kind of, I wouldn't call it an ability, or I can see things before they happen sometimes. So my biggest example of that one time was I have a Chihuahua named Cookie, and he's 10 years old now. But when we first got him, me and my fiance, well, my girlfriend at the time, we raised him since he was 2 years old, and I mean 2 days old. His mom had just given birth, and we picked him up and we took him home. And his eyes were shut. Puppies take a while to open their eyes. It's like a few weeks or like a few months or something like that. And he wasn't due to open his eyes for another week or two. And he was still a newborn. And I came home from work one day, and I came to her house, and I crashed. And he was there with us, and I fell asleep. I said, I'm just going to take a nap. I'll wake up later. And I suddenly sprang up from bed, and I told her, it's like I wasn't myself. I was just channeling a voice in my head, and I said, Cookie's going to open his eyes today. And then I went right back to sleep. And when I woke up, like a few minutes later, Cookie's eyes opened. And it's something I can't explain. It's like something channeled through me, and I could see the future when it happened and before it happened. So it's kind of like a clairvoyance kind of thing going on. There was another time I had a dream. I was imagining Europe in the wintertime, and I heard gunshots, and people screaming. And when I woke up, I saw the news. Like a few hours later, it was, I don't know if you guys remember when Paris came under attack and people got shot at a concert or something like that. It must have been about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. So that happened later that day. And it was around the winter time, I believe, in Paris. And so that something like that happened. I've had a few situations where I saw something in my dreams happen before and then it comes to fruition. So I've had events like that. I saw a UFO in my backyard. This was also around 2007, March 2009 was when it happened. I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and it was at night. It was around 7 or 9 p.m. And my bedroom window leads to our backyard in Eagle Rock, where I grew up. And I had this sudden urge to look outside the window. I can't explain it why. I was just compelled to do so. And I opened up the curtain, and as I'm on the phone, and I see this blue glowing orb flying in my backyard about 20, 30 feet in the sky. And mind you, this is before people had drones like they do nowadays. Those really didn't start coming into prominence until like 2015, 16, something like that. And there was this basketball-sized blue orb of light, and it was hovering strangely. It was, the way it was flying was kind of like defying the laws of physics. It's not like, it doesn't propel forward or up, like most flying vehicles do. It was literally doing this, like, and there was no signs of exhaust or anything. It was just literally a blue ball of light. And I screamed, "What the hell is that?" out loud. And as soon as I did that, the ball, I could do it like this, it arced really fast and out of view, like that, like nothing that could fly that fast here on Earth. And without some kind of thrust to, it takes a while to accelerate to get to that level. This thing just zipped, and it flew faster than anything I'd ever seen, or that I thought.
Wow.
Was possible. Yeah, but the weird thing about that is I didn't get a sense of. I was shocked, but I didn't feel a sense of fear. The best I could describe it was observing, but it didn't mean any harm. If that makes any sense. So those are my biggest ones. I do have a few others, but I could just go on and on. But I think those are probably my biggest examples that I share with people when I do. So yeah.
That's, it's really interesting. There's a lot of theories about people with psionic abilities, and UFOs being attracted to them, and the tie between people having psionic abilities and seeing UFOs. Has anybody ever talked to you about that? Have you ever thought about that at all?
No. These are just things that have happened to me all my life. To this day, I still experience a few things. I went to New Orleans. I saw another orb. I was staying at a hotel. I couldn't sleep at night, so I walked up to the window of the hotel. And I'm just killing time. I have insomnia, but I saw this orange orb do the same thing outside my window, and it was just zipping around. This was like in 2016. So I see like shadow people a lot. They're like black silhouettes, just walking around at night sometimes. Things like that. Clairvoyance. I've seen another UFO that I couldn't explain. This one's a longer story, so I don't know how much time we have, but this one was a weird one. This one involves like time disruption. And
you got missing time. You got a missing time story, boy? Okay, we need to hear the we need to hear the missing time story.
Well, but I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
No 420 or anything when these happen?
No, I don't partake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you got some grapefruit balls because you used to have that some of the stuff didn't bother you. Like, if I was laying in bed and a Grim Reaper came out, that would scare the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would have lost it. And I mean, I've had some stuff happen to me. I've had clairvoyance episodes. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't scare me, but I have seen a demon. I about lost it. Yeah, I couldn't sleep for weeks after that. Yeah. The times I have seen ghosts or heard, I don't have a lot of visual stuff. I'll get the audio. And I'll get more of a sense of a feeling. My visual imagination is really like crap. Like even when I write, I don't see my characters. So when I have, paranormal experiences, I tend to never get visuals. Mm-hmm. So it usually that kind of stuff like freaks me out.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really point to a paranormal experience I've had other than seeing UFOs that has not freaked me out. But
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm very impressed that all this stuff has happened
Yeah.
to you, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I saw an orb this time. It was
no big deal. Yeah.
It was no big deal. I just saw an orb.
Yeah.
You know.
I guess I'm just used to it. I don't know. I don't know. It's not. Besides the demon and the first ghost I saw, I don't think I've ever really been scared. And I can't explain why. It's just this feeling, this intuition that like it's not that it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just matter of fact. Like I just saw it, I experienced it. That's it. You know, nothing I can do about it. But like I said, with the UFO, with the blue orb, the best feeling I could describe is it meant me no harm. It was just observing. So I don't know. Yeah, and then there's the other orb, the time dilation thing that happened. That one was, I don't know if we have time for that. I can try to make it quick.
No, you can't tease us with this and not tell it because you got time dilation. I need to hear it.
So this was around 2010, 11. I was coming home from community college one day. I was taking the bus and it dropped me off. It's like a block away from my house. It's a very long block, but I was walking down my street to get back home. And at the time, I had experienced a lot of paranormal things. So I would go on to paranormal websites and see if anyone had any kind of experiences similar to mine. And people have similar things, but I had read one story. I mean, obviously, I don't know how true it is, like many of these stories, but I guess this happened in the 70s in Argentina. There was, outside of a military base, there were two guards, patrolling the perimeter of the base. And there was a weird cloud that approached the nearby hill that looked a little weird. And one of the guards said, I'm going to go check that out. That looks a little weird. It's weirdly shaped. I'm going to go in there. And he went in there and he never came back. He went missing. And then they formed a search party to go look for him. And then I think they found him like 2 or 3 days later. And when they found him, he looked like he had grown like 2 or 3 weeks worth of beard growth. And his watch had stopped on the time he vanished. And so that was like this weird time dilation thing. Well, this kind of plays into my story because it was something a little bit similar. So I was walking down my block to get back home. It's a really long street, and I couldn't explain to you why, but it was just a feeling. I had this feeling that it was at the start of the block. I had this feeling that time had reversed, and I was now back in the 50s on my street in Eagle Rock. And again, nothing changed visually. It's just this feeling inside of me telling me that all of a sudden I'm in the 50s and I can't explain why. And then that went away after like maybe 5-10 seconds. And I'm walking. I'm in the middle of the block now. And now all of a sudden I get this feeling that I'm in the future. And it's this very bleak future. It's the same street, but it's the future now. And things are grim. Again, nothing visually changed. it was this feeling that I had. That went away after a few seconds. So I'm walking down the street. I get to my gate. We live in a back house. And then my landlord lives in the front. And I was opening the gate and I look up and there's this weird cloud kind of nearby us up in the sky. And I'm looking at this cloud. I'm thinking, this looks very weird. I can't describe it to you. It was just very odd. And it was a sunny day. And it was just this very dark cloud. And I'd heard stories that, there's like UFOs or flying saucers like to hide in clouds and they look weird sometimes. And so that's what I was thinking. And then all of a sudden I see this silver little orb zigzagging around that cloud. Flying in ways that no aircraft can, obeying the laws of physics as we know them. It was zipping around like that blue orb, just like a fly up in the sky. And then I'm like, that can't be. I'm just tripping. And then my landlord comes out. He's throwing out the trash or something. And I call to him and I say, hey, do you see that up there? And then he's like, I don't have my glasses, but let me take a look. And I didn't explain to him what I saw. I said, you see what's up there? And he's like, that little silver flying thing? I was like, you see it too? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, that's kind of weird, isn't it? The way it's flying around. He's like, yeah, what is that? And we couldn't come to terms with what it was, but that was the whole story. But all I can think of was it reminded me of that story about like how there was like some time disruption, weird clouds, and how they say that there's like flying saucers or UFOs hiding in those weird clouds. Kind of like I never saw the movie Nope, but I know that they made a big deal of the weird cloud and like UFOs hiding in there or something like that. So that's kind of what it reminded me of. So I had this feeling like time had been disrupted. I had been displaced in time. And then I see that weird cloud and I see that weird silver flying orb. And that's all I could think of is just that there's some UFOs up there and messing with time or something. That's all I can think of. And again, it's nothing I can ever prove, nothing I could ever describe to you. It's just a feeling, except for that that weird silver orb flying around. So yeah.
Now I'm going to be real honest. If somebody else had told me this story and they hadn't prefaced this with the long string of other stories that you had told me,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been like, okay, maybe, that's a really interesting story, but, okay,
Yeah.
he's got some weird feelings going on. But when you're telling me, like, you've had psychic experiences your whole life, and you're telling me, oh, I'm seeing shadow people, I've seen orbs before, and this and that, that's when I know this is somebody who's really in touch with their intuition. This is somebody who probably is very right. This is probably like an accurate feeling you're getting.
Yeah.
So that's really fascinating. Like,
I've been told that like I must be in touch with something, and I don't know. I have had family on my mom's side experience weird things as well. It tends to run on my mom's side for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I did have I won't name names, but I did have a cousin who I was told in Mexico. I think she worked at some like a mental institute. I think she was a nurse there, taking care of the patients. And all of a sudden, she started hearing voices in her head, and then it got worse progressively. And then she started telling people, "Hey, I'm hearing the voice of the devil." And it progressively got worse. And some family members, I guess, didn't believe her. And she said that I have the devil inside of me. And they thought maybe either she's making it up for attention or she has some kind of schizophrenia or something like that. Mm-hmm. And she kept swearing by it. I have the devil inside me. He speaks to me. And my mom went to Mexico one day to visit. She visits like once or twice a year. She goes to visit her family. And my cousin was there, and amongst all my aunts and stuff like that. They were having brunch or something, and they had told my mom this, and my mom was just, shrugged it off too. But then, as they were having brunch or lunch, my cousin screamed out like, "It's happening! Look!" And then cuts started forming on her forearms right then and there. And my mom saw it. She's like, the cuts just started appearing on her forearms. And so that's when they started to believe something's up. So my mom left, but the last she knew is they were going to get like an exorcist to go see her or something like that. I don't know what became of that. I've asked, and my mom doesn't know. That was maybe 15 years ago, 12, 15 years ago. I don't know what became of her or what happened there. So I also did have an uncle on my father's side who was a priest. And he was a traveling priest. He would do a lot of missionary work. And one day my father and him were never really close. They never actually met. And one day my dad gets a call from my uncle. He's like, "Hey, right now I'm doing missionary work. I'm staying at somebody's house in the U.S. Would you like to meet me for the first time?" Because my dad didn't know a lot of he's related to my grandpa, my dad's dad. And he passed away when my dad was 12. So he didn't get to meet a lot of his family on his dad's side. So he was from that side. And so my dad was like, "Yeah, I'd like to meet you." And then my dad, chatted with him and asked him a bunch of stuff. And he said, "Hey, I have just out of curiosity, do exorcisms, are those real?" And then my uncle said, there are a lot of things I can't speak to, but yes, they are real. So he was a Catholic priest. So
yeah, no, I grew up very Catholic. We're the kind of Catholic who we live 4 doors down from the church. Mm-hmm. And I was like, they finally let girls be altar servers, right? So mm-hmm. I was the one who served all the funerals, and mm-hmm. my mom was always making dinner for the priest. When she didn't want to cook for the priest, he didn't like chicken and peas, so she'd tell him she was making chicken and peas so she didn't have to cook for him. Mm-hmm. So I knew all the priests in the area pretty much. And they would tell us, they would be like, "This stuff is real. We do exorcisms. Yeah. This stuff is bona fide. Do not mess with this. Do not touch it." I mean, I know kids who had to have the priest come to their house after they used a Ouija board and had to have the priest exorcise the house. I was told this by different kids who were involved telling me the same story, and then hearing it from the priest as well. So there's stuff out there we don't understand, I
agree. And again, that's why I wanted to preface this by saying that I'm an atheist, so I'm very into science, and until something can be proven, it is proven. So to have all these things happen to me is very weird, that the universe is messing with me like this. So I can't explain what they are. That's why I use the word demon, ghost, because that's the best word I can use to describe these things from my point of view. So, but I guess that would be the closest thing I could describe what I've seen, so it's very weird. I have no answer for these things. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, tell us about your book. Oh, sorry. No, go, Travis.
I do have one question. And do you think that these experiences have kind of been have helped you become a horror writer?
Not at all. No. So you would think, right? Surprisingly, but no, they didn't influence anything. I've always just been a fan of horror, science fiction and stuff like that, just for its own entertainment purposes. But those things never really inspired any stories that I can think of. No. You would think, but no.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I find that very common among horror writers who I've talked to who do have paranormal experiences. Most of them have taken zero inspiration from them. And that seems like a truism. I know I haven't taken any from mine. I know everybody, we had Edmund Stone on here, and we asked him the same question, and he said no.
Yeah. I think what inspires my horror writing or science fiction writing is like other writers, other stories that I've grown up with, other movies. But my own experiences are kind of like, I don't know, personal. They're me. They're me stories. I like to tell really made up stuff, or talk about things that really do scare me. I tend to write a lot about like cartel violence. I've seen a lot of weird beheading videos and things that I would not wish upon anybody. Things that really scare me in life. And these things really don't trigger me or traumatize me in that regard. So I guess when I write about things that really scare me, or situations that I wouldn't want to be in. So it's a lot of body horror, cosmic horror, but not a lot. I don't write a lot about ghosts. I don't write a lot about UFOs or possession too much. So yeah, it didn't really have an influence on me in that regard.
Interesting. Yeah, no, and that seems to be pretty common. And now, speaking of body horror, okay, we're going to talk about one of my favorite books this year now. Well, I read it last year, so we're going to say 2024 because I finished it in 2024. Fever Dreams of a Parasite, which comes out in March. I absolutely love this book, your collection of short stories. Tell us about it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is a collection of some of my favorite horror stories from like last roughly 5 years. And I was very fortunate to get in with Raw Dog Screaming Press, is a very great respected press. So it comes out March 13th. Here's the hardcover. I just got a couple copies in the mail right now. Great artwork by Danielle Serra. It's a great Italian artist who does a lot of stuff for everybody, really, like Clive Barker and comic books and stuff like that. So I was very blessed to have a great team, and Stephanie Pierre, shout out to her as well for being such a great editor. So this has 21 stories. A lot of it is very weird fiction, cosmic horror, body horror, a lot of metaphor for things that matter to me. So there's I tackle issues of racism, immigration, wealth disparity, poverty, stuff like that. And, the lack of agency that women have over their bodies, stuff like that, abuse, spousal abuse, and a whole wide, not all of them. There's a few where I just wrote just because I wanted to entertain and get all creepy, but a lot of it is very socially aware horror, and it's something that matters a lot to me. So I like to speak metaphorically to things that scare me, and matter to me. And I think especially right now, the way things are going in the world, this country in particular, I'm scared more than ever, and I know a lot of people I know are too. So I think this is the perfect time to do something like this. So I'm really happy this is coming out soon.
Yeah, I know both of us have really political novels coming out with Raw Dog Screaming right now. You have yours is super political, talking about cartel violence, talking about, like you said, talking about women, talking about a lot of stuff about racism in there. And then mine comes out the month after, and it's talking about LGBTQ issues. So we're kind of like publication buddies with that, which is so exciting.
Away, so I'm from finishing up here. It's really cool. I'm loving it so far. So I'll have something for you soon.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. No, and I do want to talk about the cosmic horror in Fever Dreams of a Parasite, because you really use it for a metaphor for so much. How do you feel like that fits into the political spectrum?
I guess for me, cosmic horror a lot of times is very scary stuff, and you have no answer for it. You know, the big machinations of the universe, and sometimes things are cruel, and you just have no answer for it. And these big scary things, you know, from other worlds, are kind of like the placeholder for the fears. You know, so I use that because sometimes there is no answer. You know, there's these big, great monstrosities that we can't even describe, and I think that takes you know the place of a lot of things that I find scary in this world. So you know, very allegorical, very metaphorical. So that's why I like cosmic horror, because sometimes life isn't tidy like that. There is no answer. We can't explain these things, you know. So I think that's a great vehicle to use for a lot of the messages I wanted to get through.
No, definitely. And you did a great job. It's a beautiful collection, and that's the next thing I want to touch on with this before I let you go. Because the thing that is, I think, the absolute crux of this collection is not just, you know, the politics of it. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Like the prose is beautiful. The stories are beautiful. How does beauty fit into horror?
I mean, they go hand in hand, you know. Death is scary and ugly, but then it can be beautiful because it brings people together sometimes. You know, there's always something beautiful to be taken with the ugly. You know, death breeds creation, and it's a cycle. And I don't know. That's a very good question. But it is beautiful, isn't it? This is kind of it's kind of poetic in a way. There is beauty in darkness, and there's ugly in the light sometimes. And so it goes both ways, and I think it's a great balance sometimes. But I'd have to get back to you on that. That's a good question.
No, I cheated because I don't have a good answer for the question I asked you at all. And,
sometimes we don't have the right answer.
No, but it is a gorgeous collection, and anybody who's listening out there, Fever Dreams of a Parasite comes out in March. Really, it's a spectacular collection. So look it up, check it out. Absolutely great.
That means a lot to me. Thank you so much for saying that and for taking the time to read it. That means a lot.
Oh, of course, you're welcome. I loved it. Seriously.
Thank you.
And Pedro, I have a silly question to ask you.
There's no such thing.
Do you think there's aliens right now amongst us? Do you think like Elon Musk is an alien, for instance?
I don't think he's an alien. I think he's an idiot. But if someone put a gun to my head, I would say they are probably here. They have visited or are visiting currently. Yeah, that's just my gut guess. I mean, I can't prove it. The things I've seen, it could have been something else. It could have been military aircraft. I don't think so. If they were going to experiment with that stuff, they probably wouldn't do it so close to somebody's house in LA. I think it was probably something out of not from this world that I've seen. So I think they're here. And I think we'll probably, I think within the next 20 years, I think we'll know for sure. I have a feeling.
Fingers crossed for disclosure.
Yeah.
But I definitely think they're here. And the reason why, I mean, this is a perfect example. I mean, we're three individuals right now. We're talking to each other over some technology, and we're in different parts of the country right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. This is a very beautiful thing. And Travis, do you have any supernatural stuff? I'm sure you do, right?
Oh, well, listen, I'm a mortician and I work at a funeral home my whole entire life. So of course, I have several.
Okay. We'll have to pick your brain sometime about that.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I need to hear these sometime.
Yeah.
I have several.
Yeah. Good to know.
Good to know. Well, are we ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, Pedro. By the way, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on my website, pedroiniguez.com. I'm also on Facebook under the same name, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. So I'm everywhere except TikTok.
Awesome. And everybody, by the way, Pedro's website is down in the description, so definitely click on it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, Pedro. We appreciate having you. We appreciate the stories. Awesome stories tonight. God, had a great time hearing them. This was Eliza Broadbent for the Paranormal Experience here with Pedro Iniguez and Travis Bruce. Thank you for having us here on the Horror Realm. We will see you later. Hit that subscribe button.